Continuing to look at what it takes to get started, I am going to go back to our Getting Started page on Bootstrap here. We just looked at the CSS and JavaScript files that we need. There is an option here also for your JavaScript. If you want Popper loaded separately and Bootstrap's minimum JavaScript instead of the bundle that we used, you can actually use two separate links instead of the single one. Not a big deal. We're using the single one. We're just going to load it all up front. They give us a starter template. So here's a starter template. If we didn't already have this code over on our web page, if we already didn't have this code, we could just copy this code. And we're going to go through and see what's required in here and compare it to what we did ourselves using the built-in tools of VS Code. So, some required meta tags. Let's actually scroll down a little bit and see what they have here. There's a link to Bootstrap. We're going to talk about this one in a second. We have options for loading Bootstrap bundled with Popper, which is what we did, or doing the two separately. They have comments. You just take out the comments on the ones you want to use, or just go with the defaults. Bootstrap requires the use of the HTML5 Doctype. Without it, you won't see the proper styling, but it shouldn't cause any huge hiccups. So just make sure your Doctype is set to HTML, which ours is. We can see that over here. Ours is set to HTML. And you need this tag, the responsive meta tag. And notice VS Code gave us this automatically. It's kind of standard anymore to use this viewport meta tag. Basically, what this tag does is looks at the width of the device that you're using. So if I'm using a mobile phone, it reports the number of pixels wide of your screen and sets its initial scale so that when we're on different sizes, the browser will know how to render our page based on the size of the screen we're looking at. And that's going to be very important now that we're talking about responsive web pages. This tag is what gives us the ability to be responsive. So always make sure that's there. Let's see if there's anything else. That's pretty much, they have a built-in reboot. We've talked about that before to correct inconsistencies across browsers. Basically sets everything back to some default margins on every browser. Sets our margins and our padding and our borders and font sizes and everything. Resets it all because not every browser uses the same defaults. This forces everything into the same defaults. So it's doing some things for us. So it looks like we are using everything we need to use in this template in order for Bootstrap to work. So in our next video, we will actually start maybe doing some code and seeing some structure that we can add to our pages using Bootstrap.